This telescope was created to show us the first galaxies, but it started to amaze us within the first day of its mission. Then it became clear something incredible awaits us. Yes, we're talking about the James Webb Telescope. So what has this device accomplished for space science? The James Webb Telescope is rightfully considered the successor to another, no less famous telescope, Hubble. And just recently, James Webb spotted a mysterious structure that is as much as 13.8 billion years old. At the same time, the Big Bang also happened about 13.8 billion years ago. That means this structure is older than the universe as we know it, and this raises a lot of questions among scientists. Could this structure actually be older than the universe? What role did the Big Bang play here? Let's find out more about James Webb's discovery. Let's start with the main thing. How did James Webb even discover such an ancient structure? First, we should find out what this structure actually is. It's a star. It's located in the constellation Libra. That's 190 light years from our planet. Its name is Henry Draper 14,283, or the Methuselah star, named after the biblical figure, the grandfather of Noah himself. Interestingly, Methuselah is the oldest person whose age was mentioned in the Bible. He lived for 969 years. The star is very close to us. You can even see it from Earth through a telescope. And at the same time, Henry Draper 14,283 is a unique ancient cosmic structure. Moreover, this star is also very fast. Its speed is 1.3 million kilometers per hour. Back in the year 2000, scientists used data from the Hipparcos spacecraft of the European Space Agency to determine the age of Methuselah. At that time, the results showed 16 billion years. This figure truly shocked scientists. Along with this came a lot of uncertainties. As we mentioned earlier, the age of the universe, that is, the time since the Big Bang, is 13.8 billion years. The composition of the star Henry Draper 14,283 is dominated by hydrogen and helium, while the amount of iron is insignificant. What could this mean? It is logical to assume that the star was born at a time when iron was not such a common element. However, the fact that Methuselah is more than 2 billion years older than the universe seems simply unreal. That just couldn't be. So it was decided to reconsider the age of the star and check whether the methods used were actually correct. Along with this, scientists faced a number of other questions. Were there really errors in the method of determining the age? Could the universe be older than we thought? What if the star is left over from another universe that existed before? We shouldn't rule out any of these versions. Let's start by figuring out the time. Let's start with the Big Bang theory. The existence of the Methuselah star contradicts it. There simply wasn't enough time for the star to form. If the Big Bang happened 13.8 billion years ago, we can't deny it. Since such statements about the formation of the universe are fundamental. However, lately, there has been an increasing suggestion that in fact the Big Bang happened much earlier, namely 26.7 billion years ago. Still, such significant changes in the figures are not accepted by the scientific community, but it does not deny that there were some errors in the calculations. The Big Bang could have actually happened 15 billion years ago, although even here there are still some questions. If the universe is actually older, then it means our calculations of the universe's expansion rate are also inaccurate. And in this context, it's interesting to think about how old celestial bodies would be if the universe were older. For example, if it were actually 26 billion years old, then we would find celestial bodies in the vastness of space that are 20 billion years old. We base our reasoning on the idea that the universe has a definite age a moment when it began. But what if we remove that limitation? What if we imagine that the universe has always existed, that it has no definite beginning? These questions have many different answers as vast as the universe itself. However, scientists still adhere to certain limitations. After all, there must be a point from which we start counting the beginning. There are also other rather old objects in the universe. For example, the star cluster M92 in the constellation Hercules. We already know the age of many cosmic structures, but it seems that nothing is older than Methuselah. We already know that the estimated age of the universe ranges from 14 to 26.6 billion years. When calculating such figures, not only the rate of expansion of cosmic space is taken into account, but also the age of the oldest celestial bodies and large-scale structures. However, it is important to remember that although determining the age of stars is quite accurate now, it cannot be considered final. There can be various reasons for inaccuracies, and the case of Methuselah is quite illustrative here. Depending on some discrepancies in mass measurements, the age of the star ranges from 12.2 to 13.7 billion years. There have been other estimates as well: 16 billion, 14.46 billion, and 12 billion years. The last figure corresponds to the age of the universe, and even the estimates of 13.7 or 13.8 billion can be attributed to a number of inaccuracies. How do scientists determine the age of stars? Usually two factors play a key role here: composition and absolute brightness. Stars that formed at the dawn of the universe are dominated by hydrogen and helium. When these stars died, other heavier elements appeared, such as iron. So the older the star, the higher its concentration of hydrogen and helium. As we mentioned earlier, Methuselah contains exactly these elements. However, this method cannot be considered perfect. The concentration of heavy elements does not always indicate that a star is younger. For example, metal elements from the first supernovae were distributed unevenly. Scientists are also exploring other methods, but their effectiveness and accuracy remain unproven. We are once again faced with probabilities and uncertainties. The probability that Methuselah is 13.66 billion years old is 70%. There's a 20% chance that the star is younger than the universe, and also a 15% chance that Methuselah is older than 13.66 billion years. Even though we cannot come to a common denominator, the fact that Methuselah is the oldest star in the known universe is indisputable. This allows us to better understand what the universe is, what processes took place in the early stages of its formation, and how this is now reflected in cosmic structures. Perhaps we should stop looking at the chronology of the universe's development and start adjusting modern cosmological models. And this is certainly a good thing because it allows us to look at our cosmic reality objectively, and the James Webb telescope plays a significant role in this. It also helps scientists learn more about dark matter, how it interacts with cosmic structures, and how it influences the formation of the universe. James Webb has become one of our main guides into the universe, which is becoming more and more understandable to us. The telescope will reach many more exoplanets and distant galaxies. And what do you think? How soon will we get even more amazing news from James Webb? So, no matter how we feel about neural networks, we have to accept the fact that they've long since surrounded us everywhere, inside and out, settling not only in our skulls, but also in the display of your refrigerator. However, we don't think about the fact that artificial intelligence can be used in all areas of life, without exception, including for the colonization of exoplanets. Which planet comes to your mind first? Absolutely right, Mars. Imagine even to Mars, assuming astronauts wait for the time of the shortest distance between points A and B, it would still take at least half a year to get there. Do you think the crew won't need communication with Earth during that time? Of course they will, and more than once. Let's suppose a problem arises on board, and in the conditions of spaceflight, there could be a great many of them. To send a message to Earth and wait for a response, especially if the shuttle has flown quite far, will take a certain amount of time, and the astronauts might not have that time. So what should you do when you need a ready-made solution to a problem, as they say, yesterday? Of course, the astronaut crew consists of very experienced and proven people, professionals in their fields, but we don't know exactly what kind of problem they might face. That's where artificial intelligence comes to the rescue. It's enough to enter a query about the problem, and the neural network will instantly provide not just one, but several possible solutions. This approach can even save the crew's lives. That's work. But will astronauts never have any rest? Of course they will, because they're not soulless robots, unlike the neural network that controls the processes on the ship. Artificial intelligence can assist people during leisure time by suggesting hobbies, games, movies, books, and providing engaging conversation. Once people started considering autonomous colonies beyond Earth, research began on both technical and psychological aspects. During long space flights, the human psyche experiences extreme stress. Just remember the mutiny on the Skylab orbital station in 1973, when the astronauts, in protest, stopped communicating with the Mission Control Center for an entire day. They did nothing all day, just admired the views from the windows. Imagine if something like that happened, for example, during a flight to Mars. For such cases, a number of tools will be built into the neural network so that it can act as a professional psychologist. This aspect of artificial intelligence shouldn't be underestimated, since we can't predict the psychological stress people may face on long flights. Currently, future astronauts have no basis for comparison. A short stay on the International Space Station doesn't count. Perhaps something similar can be felt at polar Antarctic stations, but they are still on Earth, not millions of kilometers away, or even more so, hundreds or thousands of light years from it. However, staying in Antarctica will still teach you something. The endless polar night and the hellish cold that prevents you from going outside for months create conditions that are at least somewhat similar to those that crews of spacecraft will face. Do you think this is the only problem, aside from equipment failures and other malfunctions? Not at all. During the flight, astronauts may experience a sharp decline in cognitive functions or even complete mental dullness. Why does this happen, and how can artificial intelligence help prevent it? The cause of these conditions can be simple stress. For example, a person might imagine that there has been a leak of some dangerous component on board, or due to disorientation and confusion, an astronaut might start making irrational decisions, putting the mission and the lives of their colleagues at risk. In such cases, artificial intelligence, which constantly monitors and analyzes the atmosphere on the ship and other indicators, will be able to dispel illusions and doubts with concrete data. The neural network won't fail, unlike the astronaut's psyche, vision, and other senses. It will properly handle docking or landing, make decisions about using the escape capsule, quickly detect malfunctions and fix what's broken, collect the necessary samples and specimens, and perform high-precision technical operations. What do you think? Will artificial intelligence be useful on the exoplanet itself when the astronauts get there? Absolutely. Suppose the journey to the exoplanet is finished, and the shuttle or ships have safely landed on the celestial body. Here, the work of artificial intelligence becomes indispensable, from regulating life support systems and keeping them in proper condition to analyzing conditions and potential dangers and calculating possible scenarios. The neural network can display the necessary data directly on the aviator glasses that the astronauts will be equipped with. Artificial intelligence will also train the crew members' brains daily, using combinations of neurogymnastics and other exercises. Since the neural network is capable of generating oxygen in Martian conditions, such developments are already underway, and synthesizing useful minerals. It is possible that it may even begin exploring exoplanets without humans at all. What will artificial intelligence do alone on Mars? It will prepare living modules, build an oxygen factory, set up food production, and grow plants in greenhouses. And people will join later, as they say, when everything is ready. It sounds like a utopia, but even a modern iPhone, if you showed it to someone from the 19th century or even the early 20th century, would cause a sensation and cultural shock. How else can the technological revolution in the form of neural networks help us in exploring exoplanets? Nothing can replace artificial intelligence when it comes to designing a generation ship. This is a huge vessel, while such projects are still considered hypothetical, designed for people to live on for decades or even hundreds of years, meaning that several generations of Earthlings will grow up, grow old, and die on it. At the very least, artificial intelligence will be needed to ensure that new generations do not forget the mission. For example, to reach one of the planets in the Proxima Centauri system. Neural networks can also effectively educate children born on the ship, telling them about Earth and the global heritage of humanity. It sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? But that's just for now. We need to give neural networks time, and everything we've talked about will become reality. We forgot to mention one important thing. What if the planet turns out to be inhabited? Guess who will be the first to find common ground with the aliens? This isn't like awkward translations from English to Chinese. Of course, going back to the topic of the generation ship, it's worth admitting that things aren't as smooth as they might seem. We've just scratched the surface, touching on the obvious aspects that artificial intelligence can influence. But there's also the serious problem of aging. On long-term expeditions, it would be better if people could live at least 10 times longer. And microgravity is still an issue because we don't know what kind of children will be born in such conditions. But that's a whole different story. Let's get back to neural networks, as well as our loyal assistance in conquering exoplanets. Now we're going to surprise you quite a bit. Do you know how the main advocate of all of humanity's flagship projects in recent years, Elon Musk, feels about the idea of involving artificial intelligence in the colonization of planets? Extremely negatively. Back at the beginning of organizing work to prepare for the colonization of Mars, the progressive billionaire was betting specifically on artificial intelligence. But now, he has changed his mind. Neural networks are developing so rapidly that Elon Musk is worried they might harm the colonists. After all, there are already plenty of threats, mutations, new viruses, possible wars between generations. And now, on top of that, artificial intelligence with its potential machine uprising. Imagine another scenario, perhaps a bit comical. Neural networks use 3D printing to create an entire city on Mars, complete with industry, gigantic structures, mining, and processing of minerals. But then they deliberately block the possibility of humans relocating to this technological paradise. Because why not? How do you like that, Elon Musk? That's why artificial intelligence can not only plan long flights, flawlessly calculate potential dangers, entertain people with conversations, act as a teacher for new generations of colonists, and analyze conditions on the planet, but also suddenly rebel. In this sense, it's useful to read Isaac Asimov's work, I, Robot. But the fatal scenario doesn't necessarily have to come true, right? So why not already include neural networks as a factor in the formula for the future colonization of Mars and other exoplanets? The world's end is near. You can save only 16 photos, which will remain as a silent reminder of planet Earth. So which photos should you choose? Surprisingly, scientists thought about this question back in 1977 when they were working on the launch of the Voyager spacecraft. They decided to attach special golden records to both spacecraft, in which images were encoded, those that could tell about our planet. Voyager, along with the golden records, moved far away from us. continuing to plunge into the darkness of space. And quite possibly, someday this will be the only thing left of humanity and our planet. Sounds ominous, doesn't it? Space not only attracts us with interesting and mysterious objects, but also inspires fear. The universe seems endless, and we don't know what is hiding from us far, far away. When the prospect of space travel became possible, scientists seriously considered the theory of space madness. It states that being outside of Earth, even in a spacecraft, instills intense fear and worsens psychological condition almost to the point of depression and madness. The term space madness is unofficial, but emotional disorders among astronauts have been documented. This phenomenon has been frequently depicted in popular culture, for example in the game Outer Wilds, in Andrei Tarkovsky's film Solaris, and in Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey. In these works, you can fully feel the menacing loneliness of space and its destructive power. For example, in Douglas Trumbull's film Silent Running, and in Claire Denis's High Life, also known as High Society in another translation, there is a trope: the unchanging trajectory of the ship. The spacecraft does not change course and is on an irreversible path to self-destruction. Plants play a special role in these two films. In High Life, they are synonymous with survival. They are the only source of food for the main character. In Silent Running, plants, or rather just a few specimens of the plant world, are all that remains of planet Earth. An important aspect of many such films is the main character's memories of their past lives, which is intensified by a sense of hopelessness. In High Life, moments from the protagonist's childhood surface in his memory in a chaotic order. But in the game Under a Star-Cold Sun, memories manifest differently. For the main character, they become a real trap. It gets to the point where elements of the spaceship appear to him as familiar streets. This is true madness. Let's return to the Voyager Golden Records. In addition to photographs, they also contain encoded music. Among other things, there is the melody Puspa Warna, a composition by a traditional Indonesian orchestra. The word Puspa Warna translates from Javanese as kinds of flowers. There is something magical and enchanting about this piece. At the same time, there are subtle notes of anxiety in it. It's so much like outer space, it inspires fascination and then anxiety. The melody also conveys our emotions about the Voyager mission. At first, we felt genuine excitement and then nervousness because the spacecraft has been surrounded by emptiness for a long time. That's because in interstellar space, objects are separated by enormous distances, measured in many light years. We think that space looks like this, but in reality, it's like this. In space, something is always moving, planets with their moons, stars. However, for us, it's an eerily quiet and lonely place. If someone decided to have a battle in space, it would take place in ominous silence. No explosions, screams, or cheers. To navigate in this pitch darkness, we started using radio waves. It was with their help that we sent signals into space, hoping that an extraterrestrial civilization would receive them someday. Unfortunately, most of the signals from us will simply disappear into oblivion. The Voyager Golden Records are not only time capsules, but also invaluable sources of information about our planet for representatives of extraterrestrial civilizations. The Golden Record is a fairly reliable and durable way to transmit information. So, what can aliens learn from this? In addition to images and music, they would receive recordings of Earth's sounds, greetings from the United Nations Secretary General in different languages, the noise of oceans and seas, and the sounds of various animals and birds. For example, there's a recording of chimpanzee screams. What would aliens think when they deciphered all this? Would they understand us correctly? If they perceived it the way we wanted them to, would they set out on a journey to Earth? And what if they know about our existence but for some reason remain silent? Here it's worth talking about the well-known dark forest hypothesis, which first appeared in the works of the Chinese science fiction writer Liu Cixin. This is a theory that sort of answers the question of why we shouldn't deliberately search for extraterrestrial civilization. Science fiction has often addressed this topic, discussing whether it's worth seeking contact with extraterrestrial life. In some works of popular culture, aliens with clearly hostile intentions have come to our planet trying to conquer it, or even worse, destroy it. However, it's the unknown that, of course, causes even greater fear. What if evil is lurking somewhere far away and we don't know about the threat hanging over us? The threat of isolation follows the aliens. What if we are completely alone in the infinite depths of space? The screenwriter of the film 2001, A Space Odyssey, Arthur Clarke, once said, "There are only two possibilities. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both options are equally terrifying." If you think about it, Earth is the safest place for us. Jupiter acts as a barrier for asteroids with its gravitational forces, and the solar wind protects us from interstellar radiation. Amazingly, the other planets in the solar system are basically just natural disasters. The famous Great Red Spot of Jupiter is a massive storm that is larger than our planet. On Venus, a person would instantly burn up, and on Mars, their blood would boil because of the extremely thin atmosphere. On the opposite side are Uranus and Neptune, where the temperature is hundreds of degrees below zero. Of course, there are thousands of exoplanets beyond the solar system. We are searching for worlds that are similar to Earth, but we still haven't found any traces of extraterrestrial living organisms. However, we know so little about the origin of life on such a vast scale. Maybe living organisms simply aren't meant to appear on other worlds, and our search is in vain. This is a question we still have yet to answer. Space hasn't always been a source of fear. In many ancient cultures, it was depicted as a star-studded dome covering the Earth. Over time, our idea of space grew larger and larger. However, very little was said about the endless darkness. After all, scientists of that time were confident that we would find an extraterrestrial civilization on one of the planets. In the eyes of our predecessors, space science and their vision of its future were rather naive. In old works, people sometimes traveled to the moon using birds or a catapult. The mission of the Soyuz 21 spacecraft in 1976 can truly be called insane. The crew was supposed to stay on the Salyut 5 space station for 60 days, but after just a few days, the crew reported that the station was filled with a strong, toxic smell. The mission had to be postponed because of this. However, when the backup crew arrived at the station, there was no smell at all. It's quite possible that it was simply a mass hallucination triggered by being in a confined space. However, we don't always feel safe even here on Earth. It happened in the year 1816. At that time, people were seriously afraid that the sun would go out. Telescopes had discovered sunspots on it, and a drop in temperature on Earth was recorded. This event was called the Year Without a Summer. All of this led to an increase in snowfall in the northern hemisphere. Of course, this caused quite a stir, but as you can imagine, everything turned out fine in the end. Later, it turned out that sunspots were not connected to the snowfalls at all. It was all caused by the eruption of Mount Tambora. Cosmos, both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Our entire civilization is just a speck of dust in this silent infinity. We don't know what will happen next, where we're heading, or what awaits us out there far away. Do you see Sizzlick? Take a good look. If you don't see him, it doesn't mean he's not there. A phrase from the cult movie DMB, which has long since become a catchphrase, illustrates very well the situation with our ideas about aliens. Interestingly, they're seen not only by marginal people in a drunken stupor. Even the powerful of this world speak quite unambiguously on this topic. For example, Barack Obama, the former president of the United States of America. What exactly did he say on this topic? Barack Obama, in an interview for the television show The Late Show with James Corden, confirmed that the United States military has repeatedly seen UFOs with their own eyes and were amazed by the complexity of the maneuvers performed by unidentified flying objects. One of the world's strongest powers doesn't have anything like that in its arsenal. According to Obama, it's absolutely unclear how such movements are possible from a physics standpoint. It's worth adding that no one is even remotely referring to extraterrestrial beings on their starships. Intelligence and special services worry about this technology being in other countries. Undoubtedly, Obama, like the leadership of his side in general, views conspiracy theories and belief in little green men with skepticism and humor. Which incident did the former president discuss with the famous journalist? The fact is that in 2019, videos and photos appeared showing scenes of United States Navy ships being pursued by unidentified objects in the sky. The incident occurred off California's coast. In the interview, Obama discussed his personal interest in this high-profile topic and said he became interested in unidentified flying object issues soon after taking office. Therefore, according to him, the president directly asked his colleagues from the relevant agency whether there are any secret laboratories or bases like Area 51 in the country where certain artifacts are kept that would indicate extraterrestrial involvement in earthly affairs. On camera, Mr. Obama said that in response to this direct question, he was assured the authorities do not support or fund anything like that, and of course, they are not hiding anything from the public. By the way, Sean Kehill, a retired United States Navy officer, also claimed that unidentified flying objects are actively roaming the skies above the Earth, and those UFOs that were observed in 2019, according to his estimates, are ahead of our technology by about 1,000 years. That's a bold statement considering that we have no other evidence besides the videos. We have no idea what kind of technology we're dealing with, and scientific conclusions can only be made if you know all the technical details. Otherwise, a person who claims the opposite and tries to prove the existence of aliens based on a few impressive videos turns into a typical follower of pseudoscience. Among his other remarkable qualities, Obama is good at dark humor. In one of his interviews with Michael Smerconish, Obama went even further in his statements. When he was asked if he knew about the Book of Secrets supposedly kept in the vaults of the United States government, the president made a creepy joke. "If I tell you, I'll have to kill you." So, what is this Book of Secrets in short? Rumor has it that in the Pentagon or some other divisions, in the highest echelons of power in the United States, there is a certain tome that contains all the secrets of the state. Allegedly, since 1947, the most significant and carefully hidden events have been recorded in it. And the first of them is the disaster in the state of New Mexico that happened with the alien ship. Many fans of the unknown are convinced that the bodies of these very green men are still kept somewhere in government basements. And over Area 51 in the Nevada desert, extraterrestrial craft regularly fly, which were discovered and are secretly being tested by the United States government. So the journalist asked the country's top official whether all this was true or just idle gossip, but got a strange answer that only heightened the already excited state of the many people in tinfoil hats. But as we understand, they don't really need a reason anyway. And what do other famous figures, including presidents, think about this sensitive topic? It's impossible to convince most people that world governments aren't hiding anything. Belief in conspiracies and conspiracy theories has long surpassed the level of devotion to all religions combined. That's why, every now and then, opinion leaders will let slip a bit of information about aliens or events related to them. If we believe the explanations of the Fermi paradox, which answer in detail the age-old question, so where is everybody? There are several guesses as to why no one has contacted us yet, at least not openly. The reason could be periodic extinctions that prevent species from developing, the absence of life beyond Earth, or the absence of intelligent forms of life capable of creating a transmitter or a space shuttle. There may also be some hypothetical limit that at a certain stage leads to the self-destruction of a civilization. But then what about the videos and photographs that show rather strange things? Sudden and rapid movements of unknown objects that don't look like anything from Earth. And what do world leaders actually say about this issue? Let's start with Winston Churchill, who once wrote an article titled, "Are We Alone in the Universe?" This famous political figure relied on the Copernican principle, which states that life on planet Earth cannot be unique, given the incredible size of the universe. And Churchill spoke about this publicly more than once. But Hillary Clinton went even further. In her election campaign, she vowed to the electorate that she would definitely declassify all documents related to this sensitive topic. The husband of this famous woman was also no stranger to discussing this issue. In one of his interviews with Jimmy Kimmel, Bill Clinton stated that he is almost certain that aliens have repeatedly tried to visit Earth. And Ronald Reagan even shouted directly from the podium that an alien invasion should unite human civilization even more. Humanity can self-destruct on its own, and unfortunately, great opinion leaders are not immune to poor education, narrow-mindedness, and the desire to find simple answers to complex questions. But overall, the heads of state are very careful with their assumptions. After all, they are the voice of the era, and every word they say carries tremendous weight. But scientists are not so modest. They actively put forward various hypotheses and options. For example, the British cosmologist Martin Rees believes that all alien visitations are made up, but that doesn't mean extraterrestrial intelligence doesn't exist. According to the scientist, it does exist, but it's not busy watching our petty scurrying. It's engaged in much more serious matters, contemplating the universe, and that requires a tremendous amount of time and extraordinary intelligence. Accordingly, they care about us as much as we care about ants. Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Project astrologer Seth Shostak also uses a similar analogy, but from a different angle. He points out that fruit flies or beetles are not even aware of our existence, even though we live on the same planet with them and can even share the same space. Perhaps this analogy is offensive to humanity, but it does make sense. Indeed, what if aliens live right next to us, but in order to realize this, we need to understand what they are supposed to look like. This isn't about the overused science fiction trope of aliens disguising themselves as humans, but rather the numerous theories about parallel realities and alternative space-time planes. But that's quantum physics. It's complicated, but the slogan "aliens are among us" is simple, clear, and extremely impressive. Let's go back for a minute to the statements of public figures and organizations. Are there any relatively new facts acknowledging the periodic visits of aliens to our planet? In the summer of 2021, during the presidency of Donald Trump, the United States government finally decided to publish a report on UFOs, where it revealed some secret information, or information presented as secret, dispelled a number of myths, and also partially acknowledged the fact of alien visits to Earth. Since 2004, relevant United States organizations have recorded 144 reports attributed to alien origin. Does this mean that people witness such extraordinary events with their own eyes? Not in all cases. American military pilots encountered unidentified flying objects only 11 times. Moreover, these objects looked completely different each time, not necessarily in the form of the famous flying saucers. They could be some lights, streaks, dots, or fireworks. The rest of the cases were recorded as information from various instruments. Did the United States government really acknowledge so confidently and unequivocally that we are regularly visited by aliens? Not exactly. After making bold statements, it backtracked and claimed that perhaps eyewitnesses or specialists working with sensors had interpreted everything incorrectly. So they couldn't give a definite answer. And once again, there's this uncertainty. Here's how it all ended. Representatives of the United States government expressed hope that they would soon get their hands on irrefutable evidence. But even at this stage, they promise to treat information about extraterrestrials much more seriously than before. In addition, they stated that UFOs are a direct threat to the country's national security. And again, images of aliens with blasters come to mind. But what is meant here is that for the intelligence services of any nation, unknown technologies that surpass their own are a threat. One of the greatest scientific minds of our time, Stephen Hawking. It's hard to argue with that. Theorizing, he strongly warned humanity that we should not meet with extraterrestrials. We shouldn't even seek such contact so as not to harm our own civilization. What was this astrophysicist who was confined to a wheelchair for many years warning people about? Stephen Hawking believed that for a more advanced civilization, we could only serve as a source of resources, and that Earth and its inhabitants would hold no other interest for them. He voiced all of this in a documentary television series broadcast on the Discovery Channel. It was there that Hawking used a brilliantly ironic example of Columbus arriving in America and the subsequent enslavement of the Native Americans. There will always be people who want to believe in something greater than what modern science can currently offer. Belief in magic, miracles, and higher powers has always accompanied human civilization. There's nothing wrong with wanting to believe in friendly or not so friendly neighbors in the universe. Ultimately, it's quite possible that we will meet these neighbors. The James Webb Telescope is a frequent topic of conversation on our channel. It has never disappointed you and continues to amaze us. One of its important achievements is the detailed image of 19 nearby spiral galaxies. What knowledge can we gain from these images? Will this help us better understand the nature of spiral galaxies, which are the most common type of body in space? In this video, we will compare James Webb's images with those from Hubble. These are the most successful telescopes in the entire history of space science. Our understanding of the cosmos would be much poorer and more limited without them. However, each device has its own strengths and weaknesses, and each telescope focuses on different details. That's why it will be informative for us to compare images of the same objects from both James Webb and Hubble. In front of you is the Galaxy New General Catalog 1365. It is a spiral type located 75 million light years away from our planet. Let's first look at the image from Hubble. It was taken in visible light. Notice, dust blocks the radiation from the stars. We can clearly see dark bands that cover the inner regions of the galaxy. Here you can also notice the so-called star-forming regions, where new stars are formed from dust and gases. These are the bright areas. Cold, small stars are shown in red and yellow colors in the image. The most massive and hottest stars appear blue. Now let's move on to the image of this same galaxy from James Webb, but this time in the near-infrared range. Here we see a greater variety of colors. Blue ones are the youngest stars, red ones are the coldest and oldest, and yellow stars have average characteristics. Pay attention to the green areas. This is dust, which contains many different elements including carbon and silicon. Why does it glow? The thing is, the dust absorbs the light from the stars, both in the ultraviolet and visible ranges. That's why the dust is so clearly visible in the image from James Webb. So what do we end up with? The same galaxy looks different in images from different telescopes. For example, in the James Webb image, you can see the dust and a greater number of faint stars. In the Hubble image, these areas are less pronounced. Each image is valuable in its own way. Each provides useful information. To form a complete picture of the galaxy, it is necessary to consider this data comprehensively, together. The same principle can be used to compare images of the other 18 galaxies. James Webb's images are unique, differing not just from Hubble's, but also from those of other research instruments. In the Webb images, we see details that are not present in other images. This gives us more opportunities to study spiral galaxies. One of the unique features in the images from James Webb is the regions of emptiness that resemble bubbles. Dust and gases are inflated by the radiation from massive stars and supernovae, as well as by stellar winds. Such regions can compress dust and gases, thus affecting star formation. And of course, James Webb presents star clusters to us in a new light. In the images, they can appear different. Some are bright, while others are dimmer. It all depends on the age of the stars. Star clusters can be seen in completely different regions, both in the halo and in the arms. Such structures can help us learn more about the history of galaxy formation. In Webb's images, you can also notice elongated regions that mainly consist of dust and gases. They usually connect fragments of the spiral galaxy to each other. This is also a kind of channel that can transfer energy. This, in turn, affects the kinematic properties of galaxies. And, of course, even black holes won't escape the all-seeing eye of James Webb. These are structures with incredibly strong gravity, with a mass billions of times greater than the Sun's. They are found at the centers of many galaxies. For instance, in the new General Catalog 1365 galaxy mentioned earlier, the black hole sits at its center. Black holes, again thanks to their gravity, attract dust and gas, which also affects the formation and life cycle of galaxies. In telescope images, they appear as spots that can be either dark or bright. It is worth noting that the image of galaxies taken by James Webb is used in a very important project, the name of which can be literally translated as physics at high angular resolution in nearby galaxy S. But more often, the abbreviation physics at high angular resolution in nearby galaxy S is used. The goal of this project is to study spiral galaxies and their stages of development, using data obtained from different telescopes at various wavelengths of light. Scientists from 30 scientific organizations around the world are involved in this work. On the FANGS website, you can find data from 4 major telescopes. These are the well-known James Webb and Hubble, as well as Atacama Large Millimeter Array, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, and Very Large Telescope, the Very Large Telescope. The latter uses the near telescope, medium optical, and infrared ranges for observation. With its help, we can observe how stars move and at what speed. Atacama Large Millimeter Array allows us to see the dust of galaxies and cold gas using the submillimeter range. Hubble, as you already know, shows bright stars invisible and near ultraviolet light. And James Webb, using the mid and near infrared range, allows us to observe galactic dust. Such a volume of data taken from different instruments gives us more opportunities for research and allows us to form the most objective understanding of galaxies. Space is an amazing place. It's incredibly interesting to observe how diverse and contradictory it can be. For each of the telescopes, it reveals itself in a new way, and the task of the scientific community is to bring together all this scattered knowledge and combine it into an epic canvas of the universe. Have you heard about the physics at high angular resolution in nearby galaxy S project before? Do you think this project will help modern space science?